7:42 a.m. Virginia Beach, Virginia, a quiet cul-de-sac off Great Neck Road. 23 Homeland Security Investigations agents in plate carriers stacked against the front door of a 3-story colonial. 2 MR apps blocked the driveway. A surveillance drone held position 40 feet above the roofline. The target inside was a 54-year-old systems architect with a secret clearance, 2 children in private school, and a mortgage he had paid off in cash 11 months earlier. At 7:43 a.m., the ram hit the door. The arrest of Daniel R. Keller would trigger the largest counterintelligence takedown on a Navy contractor in the past decade. 6 arrests in 6 hours. Encrypted drives seized from 2 residences. An indictment running 84 pages. At the center of it, a 40-employee firm in an unremarkable office park that held the keys to the Fifth Fleet's daily movements through the Strait of Hormuz. This is the case of Maritime Logistics Applications Incorporated and the 19-year employee who sold it to Tehran. The company occupied the second floor of a building at 2847 Lynnhaven Parkway. Nothing about the exterior suggested proximity to national security. A small lobby, a receptionist, a conference room with blue upholstered chairs. The contracts on the firm's servers told a different story. Since 2019, Maritime Logistics Applications had provided the port scheduling and convoy routing software used by the Fifth Fleet across its forward operating sites in Bahrain, Djibouti, and the Eastern Mediterranean. Fuel tender arrivals, pier assignments, shore leave rotation schedules, escort convoy departure windows, every piece of data governing how a warship entered, refueled, and exited a friendly port passed through the firm's platform. The software was not classified. The data running through it was, on October 14, 2025, employees arriving at the Lynnhaven Parkway office found the back door pried open. 3 desktop computers were missing from the engineering suite. A whiteboard had been wiped clean. A company-issued laptop was gone from a drawer that was supposed to be locked. The IT manager filed a report with Virginia Beach Police. He called it a routine break-in. Management agreed. The computers were replaced within a week. Insurance covered the loss. The office installed a second alarm panel. No one at the firm told the Navy. That decision, treating the incident as petty theft rather than a potential security breach, is what allowed the next 5 months to unfold the way they did. On November 22, 2025, a signals intercept processed by the National Security Agency flagged a routine Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps communication out of Bandar Abbas. The intercept referenced a fuel tender arrival window at Naval Support Activity Bahrain. The window was accurate to within 9 minutes. That level of precision should not have existed outside a classified Navy distribution list. The intercept was forwarded to HSI's counterintelligence unit at the Washington Field Office. Within 72 hours, a parallel review of 3 prior IRGC intercepts from September and October turned up the same pattern. Shore leave rosters for USS Mason, pier assignment data for USS Baton, fuel convoy schedules for the Eastern Mediterranean Replenishment Group. Every detail traced back to one common source, the scheduling platform operated by Maritime Logistics Applications. Special Agent in Charge Elena Vasquez opened case file HSI-VA-2-025-4471 on November 28, 2025. She assigned it a counterintelligence designation and pulled 2 analysts off a separate sanctions evasion matter. By December 3rd, the probe had a name: Operation Lynnhaven Gate. The first question was not who, it was how many. I spent hours going through the filings on this case, and one detail kept nagging me. The firm had never been audited, not once in 6 years of holding contracts that touched live fleet operations. The Defense Counterintelligence and Security Agency had cleared the facility in 2019 and never returned. The Navy's program office had conducted software compatibility reviews. No one had ever asked who inside the firm was touching the data. That gap created the opportunity. Daniel Keller took it. Keller had joined Maritime Logistics Applications in 2006 as a junior developer. By 2015, he was senior systems architect. He held a secret clearance, a company-issued laptop, and root access to the scheduling platform. His annual review in 2024 described him as foundational to firm operations. He had also, since early 2023, been receiving monthly payments from a Dubai-based maritime insurance firm called Al-Haddad Shipping Indemnity. The payments arrived through a chain of intermediary accounts. Funds originated in a Melit Bank subsidiary in Tehran. They moved to a correspondent account in Istanbul. then to a shell company registered in Limassol, Cyprus, then to a numbered account at a Turkish private bank, then finally to a business account Keller had opened in the name of a consulting LLC registered in Delaware. The total from March 2023 through November 2025 came to $4,200,000. Keller had paid off his mortgage in November 2024. He had paid cash for a second residence in Corolla on the Outer Banks in February 2025. He had enrolled both of his children in a private academy charging $53,000 per year per student. His wife did not know about the Corolla house. HSI analysts spent the first 3 weeks of December reconstructing Keller's financial footprint. They pulled IRS filings, property records, and wire transfer logs. They subpoenaed the Delaware LLC's bank records. They cross-referenced the Limassol Shell Company against a FinCEN watch list of entities tied to Iranian commercial intelligence activity. On December 18, 2025, the cross-reference returned a hit. Al-Haddad Shipping Indemnity had been flagged 3 times since 2022 as a suspected front for an IRGC Quds Force economic unit operating out of a commercial office tower in Dubai's Dera district. The broker running the front had a name, Reza Farahani, Iranian national, 51 years old, maritime insurance background, no direct IRGC service record, but 2 cousins in the Quds Force Foreign Operations Directorate. Farahani was the customer. Keller was the supplier. The Cyprus and Turkish accounts were the pipeline. The question now was what had actually moved through it. On January 6, 2026, HSI obtained a Title III intercept on Keller's personal cell phone and a FISA warrant on 3 email accounts he used from rotating devices. The court authorizations covered 90 days. The clock started the same afternoon. The first intercept of value came on January 11, 2026. Keller was driving home from the Lynnhaven Parkway office. At 6:14 p.m., he placed a call to a prepaid number registered to a SIM card activated in Sharjah. The call lasted 4 minutes and 38 seconds. Keller used a phrase HSI analysts later flagged as a prearranged signal. The package from Norfolk is ready for shipment on the 23rd. There was no package. There was no Norfolk shipment. Cross-referenced against internal scheduling data, the 23rd matched the projected arrival window of a replenishment convoy inbound to Naval Support Activity Bahrain. The convoy would include the fuel ship USNS Patuxent and a munitions tender. Keller had queried the platform for that convoy's routing file at 4:47 p.m. the same day. He had been the only user to access that file from a non-Navy endpoint that week. The intercept was enough to move the investigation from passive surveillance to active evidence development. On January 14th, HSI briefed the Department of Justice National Security Division. The case acquired a prosecutor from the Eastern District of Virginia. The indictment frame began taking shape. Then came the first obstacle. On January 19th, a blizzard out of the Appalachians shut down the Hampton Roads corridor. HSI's Norfolk field office lost power for 11 hours. 2 surveillance vehicles tracking Keller's movements were pulled off the street for a state-mandated weather suspension. During those 11 hours, Keller drove to Corolla and spent the night at the second residence his wife did not know existed. When HSI surveillance reacquired him on January 20 at 9:47 a.m., he was carrying a hard-shell case that had not been in his vehicle the night before. Agents lost him again at the Chesapeake Bay Bridge Tunnel. He resurfaced 41 minutes later at a commercial mail facility in Virginia Beach. He did not have the case with him when he emerged. Whatever had been in that case had entered a drop chain the investigation had not yet mapped. For the next 3 weeks, HSI tracked every parcel that left that mail facility to any international destination. They cross-referenced shipping manifests against IRGC, linked intermediaries in Dubai, Istanbul, and Limassol. On February 11, 2026, they identified the package. It had moved through 3 countries and changed hands twice before arriving at an address in Sharjah, registered to a cousin of Reza Farahani. The package contained a single encrypted thumb drive. What's most surprising about this case is not the volume of what Keller moved, it's the specificity. Forensic reconstruction of his platform queries across 2024 and 2025 showed a targeting pattern tight enough to read like a collection requirements list. Carrier strike groups, replenishment windows, shore leave rosters for specific ports during specific weeks, fuel convoy departure signatures that would let a hostile actor pre-position assets in choke points. He was not stealing everything. He was stealing what Tehran was asking for. And in the fall of 2025, Tehran had been asking specifically about one ship. USS Gerald R. Ford had arrived in the Central Command area of responsibility on October 18, 2025, as part of the largest U.S. military buildup in the Middle East in nearly 2 decades. The carrier's projected port call windows, fuel draw schedules, and escort rotation data were among the most sensitive non-classified operational signatures in the theater. Between October 2025 and February 2026, Keller queried Ford-related routing files on 14 separate occasions. Each query correlated with a payment tranche into the Delaware LLC account within 9 to 14 days. The IRGC was paying piece rate. Keller was billing piece rate. On February 18, 2026, HSI began mapping the co-conspirators. The first name to surface was Marcus Alden, retired Navy commander, 67 years old, former logistics officer at Naval Station Norfolk. Alden had left active duty in 2017 and joined Maritime Logistics Applications as a consultant in 2019. His role at the firm was nominal. He appeared at quarterly client meetings and reviewed Navy procurement language in contract bids. His actual value to Keller was access to 2 email lists still populated with active Navy logistics officers. Alden had introduced Keller in the spring of 2022 to a Dubai-based consultant at a maritime trade conference in Athens. The consultant was Reza Farahani. The introduction had been arranged through a third party, a cleared Farsi-English translator named Sahar Moradi, who had been working on Navy contracts since 2014. Moradi became the third target. The fourth and fifth were a husband and wife team who operated a small tax preparation office in Virginia Beach. They had been moving Keller's Delaware LLC receipts through a series of fabricated consulting invoices for 19 months. They were not intelligence operators. They were accountants who had stopped asking questions once the retainer crossed $40,000 a month. The sixth target was harder. He was a current federal employee. HSI has not publicly identified his agency. The indictment refers to him only as Co-Conspirator 6. Court documents describe him as having provided Keller with access to an unclassified logistics coordination portal that mirrored selected elements of the classified Navy distribution system. That access is what allowed Keller to verify that the data he was selling was still current at the moment of transmission. The raid was over. The network dismantled. But what agents did not know yet was that Co-Conspirator 6 had already been tipped off. Through the last week of February and the first week of March 2026, HSI built the tactical plan. 6 targets, 4 simultaneous entry teams, 2 secondary search sites, coordination with the FBI's Norfolk Field Office, the Naval Criminal Investigative Service, and the Joint Terrorism Task Force. Then came the second obstacle. On March 9, 2026, the Title III intercept on Keller's cell phone returned a call to Sahar Moradi. Keller asked Moradi whether she had heard anything unusual from the Dubai side. Moradi said she had not. Keller said he had a feeling. He did not elaborate. The call suggested Keller was entering the nervous phase that often precedes a flight decision. HSI moved the arrest timeline up by 19 days. The operation was scheduled for March 24, 2026, a Tuesday. The morning of March 24th at 7:42 a.m., 23 HSI agents moved on Keller's Virginia Beach residence. Simultaneously, 11 agents approached Alden's condominium in Norfolk. 6 agents entered Moradi's apartment in Arlington. 4 agents detained the tax preparation couple at their office. 2 agents, supported by a separate federal counterintelligence unit, moved on Co-Conspirator 6 at his place of employment in the District of Columbia. All 6 targets were in custody by 1:47 p.m. The search of Keller's Virginia Beach home recovered 3 encrypted external hard drives, 2 Faraday bags, a ledger written in a substitution cipher, and $47,000 in cash stored inside a hollowed-out section of a basement workbench. The search of the Corolla residence recovered a second set of drives, 2 burner phones still active, a go bag containing Canadian and Mexican currency, and a U.S. passport in a name that was not Keller's. The passport matched a photograph of Keller from approximately 2021. The name matched a deceased Indiana resident whose social security number had been harvested from a data broker breach in 2020. Keller had built an exit. He had not yet used it. Think about Elena Vasquez's position for a moment. 4 months of surveillance. A target with a fake passport in a house his wife did not know about. A co-conspirator inside the federal government. A deployed carrier strike group in a theater where the adversary now had months of compromised scheduling data. There was no clean version of this. There was only the version where you closed the loop before more sailed. The indictment, unsealed on March 25, 2026, in the U.S. District Court for the Eastern District of Virginia, ran 84 pages and charged 6 defendants with conspiracy to commit espionage, unauthorized disclosure of national defense information, wire fraud, and money laundering. The lead count against Keller carried a maximum sentence of life imprisonment. The intelligence damage assessment conducted by the Office of the Director of National Intelligence remains classified. Public statements from the Navy confirmed that operational adjustments were made to the forward-deployed carrier strike group in the days following the arrests. What those adjustments were, and whether they fully addressed the exposure, is not in the public record. Here's the take that will probably draw flack. A firm with 40 employees, no dedicated security officer, and no post-clearance audit in 6 years was handling data that could put a carrier crew inside a missile envelope. The failure is not Keller. The failure is the assumption that a secret clearance issued in 2006 still meant something in 2025 without anyone ever checking again. The system runs on the trust of its initial vetting. Keller understood that. He built his entire operation on the silence between reviews. What do you think? Was this a clearance system failure or a contractor oversight failure? The line between them is where the next case will live. There is a detail that stuck with me from the indictment. On the day Keller was arrested, his wife was at a parent-teacher conference at the private academy the Corolla house had helped pay for. When agents reached her by phone, she asked twice whether there had been a mistake. She was told there had not. She asked to see the house in Corolla. A federal agent drove her there that evening. She had never seen it before. The academy has not commented on whether the tuition payments, now subject to asset forfeiture proceedings, will be clawed back. 4 of the 6 defendants have entered preliminary plea discussions. Alden and Moratti are contesting the charges. Keller is represented by a federal defender and has waived his right to a speedy trial while his attorneys review the classified discovery. A trial date has not been set. The Delaware LLC's bank accounts, totaling approximately $1,100,000 at the time of seizure, have been frozen. The remainder of the $4.2 million, roughly $3 million, was moved out of the U.S. financial system before the arrest and has not been recovered. Investigators believe a portion was converted to gold through a dealer in Istanbul, and a portion remains in circulation through the Dubai broker chain. Reza Farahani has not been apprehended. He was last seen at a commercial address in Dera on March 23, 2026, the day before the Virginia arrests. He is not in custody. The Department of Justice has filed a sealed criminal complaint against him. Extradition from the United Arab Emirates is not presently available. Co-conspirator 6 has been suspended from his position pending trial. The portal access he provided has been revoked, and the underlying system is undergoing a full audit. The agency he worked for has not publicly named him. If you want the full picture of how federal counterintelligence cases like this actually unfold, the surveillance timelines, the financial reconstructions, the quiet decisions that decide whether a trial happens at all, subscribe so you don't miss the next case we break down. The network that moved Keller's data is not gone. The broker is still operating. The shell companies in Cyprus and Turkey have been renamed and reopened under different beneficial owners. The demand that built the pipeline has not gone away. One contractor is in custody. The architecture that allowed him to exist is still standing. The carrier is still in the Gulf. The data is still on Iranian servers, and somewhere in Dera, a broker is already building the next pipeline. The case is closed, the exposure is not.